also have opened up for leasing another 13.1 million acres that people can bid on in our country on public land, and this is land that was set aside. This is not national parks, it's not wilderness area, it's not our wildlife refuges. This is public land that was set aside for the benefit and use of the American people, including energy development and making sure that we've got affordable, reliable energy.
I mean, you can sort of see him blinking there, but his eyes are super heavy, appearing to, I don't know, at least begin to maybe nod off during an Oval Office meeting yesterday. This time, we'll take a look at it again, was Thursday's announcement of new investments in reliable American energy. Members of his cabinet stood right next to him, one of them speaking loudly. This is a different event. Still, a White House spokesperson is adamant, here's a series of events, really, that the 79-year-old Trump is the sharpest, most accessible and energetic president in American history, telling the Daily Beast that any suggestion otherwise was from lightweight, glue-sniffing reporters pushing baseless conspiracy theories. All right, then, Trump's latest bout with mid-meeting drowsiness came one day after Secretary of State Marco Rubio denied ever seeing the president sleep. He never sees him sleep.
Have you been at more than one meeting where President Trump has fallen asleep?
That's false. That's false. I've never seen him fall asleep. On the contrary, the guy doesn't sleep, which is a big problem because he calls me at 2 in the morning. He calls me at 5 in the morning. And, you know, I like to sleep a little bit, maybe not 12 hours, but at least 6. So he works. The other day he was at the Oval Office until 12:30 p.m. 12:30 a.m. I don't know what you're talking about.
Secretary Rubio, I'm going to show you in a moment a video that shows you just lied to Congress.
Oh, okay.
So this is a video of a cabinet meeting literally from last month where Donald Trump is sleeping while you are talking. Please show this video.
A coalition of countries that line up behind the peace deal, behind the border peace, and it's still every day is a challenge. But it's been driven personally by the president. It's the reason why we're involved in this whole Ukraine-Russia conflict. That's not our war. It's not the president's war. This war started. It never would have happened if you've been president. But this war is going on, and the president is trying to end it.
You are literally talking about issues of war and peace, and Donald Trump is sleeping right next to you.
No, he's not.
Joining us, senior writer at The Dispatch and MS Now contributor David Drucker, former advisor to George W. Bush and John McCain, Mark McKinnon, Leon Caldwell is still back with us. God, I mean, it's like when my husband and I are in bed at night and we're watching whatever television show, and I'm desperate to stay awake, but I can't. And I keep pretending. I keep falling asleep and then just, oh, yeah, that was a really, I just over and over again. That's what that looks like to everybody, except apparently, and I think this is the way you have to describe them, Mark, the sycophants that are around him.
Are you going to believe your lying eyes? Or me? Or Trump? I mean, this just goes to the issue that was debated so much during the election and about Biden. In America today, you can't be a commercial pilot or a park ranger if you're 66. And we have a president who's 15 years older than that. Corporations make CEOs retire at 65. There's a reason for that. You can't possibly, you may be good, but you're not nearly as good as you were at 65. And for the most important in the free world, to have anybody trying to run it at 80, this is what you get. Nobody should be surprised.
I mean, that is just the reality, David. You could be the sharpest, most energetic, most awake person, but age will catch up with you. Age will tire you out. That's a reality of the world we're living in. And I'm so disappointed that the people around him can't acknowledge it. I'm disappointed that the people in the White House don't see this and say, maybe we shouldn't allow him to do these never-ending meetings where the guys behind him right now look at how uncomfortable they look. No one's listening because they're looking at the president nodding off.
The irony, Katie, of these never-ending meetings is it's one of the reasons why a lot of people don't think that he's having age issues and do think that he's vigorous, is because he's constantly in public. He's constantly, as Secretary Rubio noted in that clip, calling people in the middle of the night. We know that he seems to enjoy posting on Truth Social at length in the middle of the night. And it gives a lot of people the impression that the guy, is elderly but energetic. And so I'm not arguing against the clips we just saw, but when you talk to people in the country, even a lot of the president's critics don't think he's having the same problems as President Joe Biden. And the only reason I bring that up is we have a trend of people working for elderly presidents who don't want to acknowledge that the president is elderly and that it might be impacting it, not necessarily performance or policy, but concentration. But again, I think Trump's able to deal with this for the time being. One, because people have bigger fish to fry with him, the economy for one, and inflation. And number two, he's just constantly in your face. And so it doesn't look like he's off taking a nap somewhere.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Here's the thing.
Public.
So if we're seeing this, if we're watching it, and this is what they're showing us, you have to wonder what's happening when we're not watching. Just like we wondered with Joe Biden, what's happening when we're not watching, and he's having a meeting about national security or a meeting about the war or a meeting about the economy, and his advisors are laying out options, laying out contingencies, laying out the variables, maybe the variables of what might happen if he goes to war with Iran. And I don't know whether the Strait of Hormuz will get disrupted or potentially not blockaded, but held hostage by the Iranians. Was he awake during those meetings, Leanne? Did he hear those concerns, or are we in this war because he happened to be dozing off as his advisors and his officials were giving him all of the possibilities? We're laying out the menu. I know you can't answer that, but that's got to be something that people on Capitol Hill are wondering and might be concerned about. Or maybe you tell me, are you not hearing about that concern?
Not really. I have heard Republicans say that he is sometimes looking older, and it looks like he is aging when they're in front of him. But what I also hear is a lot more concerns, as David was saying, about the economy and the midterms and the fact that they can't get the president, whether he's dozing off or not, to focus on the issues that will help them win. This is a much more tightly run White House than Trump 1.0. And so the leaks are a lot less. The team inside the White House is much more unified. So even if he was falling asleep in these national security meetings or unable to be engaged, we haven't heard it yet. And there has not been any official complaints. We see what is happening in the public in these long, drawn-out meetings where he does seem to be dozing off. But when I do talk to members on Capitol Hill, they're much more concerned with their own jobs and their own reelections and wish that the president would get focused on the things that they think will help them actually win rather than all of the other things that he's obsessed with.
I think it is an absolutely fair thing to wonder about how awake he is in these private meetings, especially if they're so comfortable showing how not quite awake he is in these public meetings. There's some reporting from Public Citizen, citizen.org, on the ballroom donors, David. I wonder if anybody's concerned about this. 14 of the 27 donors who have contributed money to the president's ballroom have received new or increased government contracts over the last 6 months, totaling $50 billion. Sounds like pay to play. Am I wrong about that?
It sure sounds like it. So you may be technically wrong, but not wrong in the aggregate here. Look, first of all, if you're one of the companies that gave, at least if the ballroom was being built with your money, you could deflect from pay to play allegations by saying, look, I helped build the United States a brand new presidential ballroom. Now that the president wants $1.8 billion for the ballroom, it's unclear what that money was for, except maybe some of these other things. I think, part of this, and I always get back to this, is that this is the sort of thing that, one, people assume is true about Washington, even when it isn't, or even when it may be true, but at a much lesser scale than it appears to be now. And when they're so concerned with so many other things that are pressing, like whether they can pay their bills and how far their dollar is going to stretch next week, it's hard to get exercised about this, but it is the kind of thing that voters will get exercised because it goes to the fact that you're not taking care of the most important thing, but you sure have plenty of time for this other thing that's also wrong. And so it becomes a death by 1,000 cuts. But, without a functional Congress where we can depend on both parties in Congress to investigate presidents of their party, and in this case, it's on the Republicans to investigate Trump, you're just not going to see, much done about this in Washington. And the president has a free hand to do this.